I guess it's a good moment to try and practice a bit of conflict resolution, right? What we saw earlier. So, yeah, obviously I'm probably going to dig myself into a hole tonight, but anyway, I think now's a good time more than ever to try and speak about peace. So I'm going to try and speak from my perspective, my limited understanding of a very complex subject. Can we move to the next slide, please? Yeah, so as I said, it's a very complex subject, very divisive, all sorts of opinions. I don't have an academic background in this subject, but I'm going to try to give you some, I guess, some feelings and some anecdotal views on the way I see what's happening. Some people might say to me, what's that got to do with people on the ground? But, you know, I can give you some examples of things that, for me, strike me. For example, when I see examples of selective humanism, where I find that, for example, I'm able to feel sympathy for one person because of their nationality, where I'm not able to feel sympathy for the nationality of someone else. Sort of putting a victim hierarchical layer to what's happening. And again, like, okay, I'm here in Madrid, what's happening in the Middle East is horrific. But I think if it can have a ripple effect to maybe change enough people's mindsets and maybe not to take sides, because, you know, I've heard I'm quoting someone that is actually from the region saying that, I mean, they were saying that in the West, we should be able to hold grief simultaneously for Israelis and Palestinians. I would add, it doesn't just need to be the West, we could say the East, I mean, because West, what does West mean? But I mean, that would be my 2 cents on that I can only speak for me. I can't tell other people to have sympathy for X person or Y person, but I can only try my best as Dan to feel sympathy for everyone suffering, to try and listen. And again, this is practice, not perfect. I don't do this very well by any means, but trying to hear where the other side is coming from, be like, okay, that I hear you, and this is where I'm coming from, but having a safe space for each side to speak. Can we go to the next slide, please? So, if you have time now or afterwards, I would highly encourage you to look up ALLMEP. ALLMEP is an amazing organization, a network of 160 organizations, Israelis and Palestinians on the ground. So I would also add that I think there's more likelihood of peace coming to fruition if it's from the ground up, as opposed to like lunatic politicians on the other side of the Atlantic trying to tell people what they should or shouldn't do. So I've donated. I'm not saying you should donate, but if you can afford to donate, I would highly recommend, as opposed to following what the right-wing news or the left-wing news is telling you about what's happening, I would put more energy into following what these organizations are doing, because they're doing marvelous work. There are people in there, bereaved families, Israelis and Palestinians. They've all lost so much. They're able to come together. And again, it's easy for me to say that from here. Can we go on to the next slide, please? Yeah, maybe anyone familiar here with Letterboxd? Put your hand up, please. Yeah, so basically, I love Letterboxd. I'm a big film person. I love series as well, documentaries. So I have a list on there. So if you go on my profile, hopefully you'll be able to find the list, which, again, this is only my opinion, but I like to add content to that list that speaks to bringing peace, justice, harmony, reconciliation between Israelis, between Palestinians. And again, like you might say, what's that got to do with what's happening in Gaza or Israel? But for me, for example, if you can see an Israeli, a Jordanian, and a Palestinian farmer coming together in a documentary using owls as a tool to overcome their political issues, because they know that the owls can kill the mice that are eating their crops. They find that shared common problem. You can see an animation by university students, probably 18, 19 years old, again about reconciliation. That's my 1 minute warning. And there's a whole variety of beautiful content on there. There's a drama about a gay Palestinian man and a gay Israeli man trying to overcome, you know, these cross-check borders and all of these other nightmarish scenarios. Again, I've got no idea what it's like going through. There's another documentary about dancing in Jaffa, about this amazing man called Pierre. I forget his surname. He was born in Jaffa, and he teaches children that absolutely loathe each other, Arabs, Muslims, Israelis, Jewish kids to dance together. And I could go on, like there's a whole variety of different documentaries. There's another drama about this amazing music composer, Crescendo. He brings musicians from all over the Middle East, and also Iran, Israel, Jordan, Egypt, North Africa, to play together. And again, I think if they can be a beacon of light for people coming together, I think us that aren't directly affected by the conflict can maybe try and just change our chip. And again, I can only try and change my chip. I can't tell you to change your opinion. But I feel like if we can do less side-taking, for example, in Paris, they had a peace march. They had Israelis and they had Palestinians, Jews, Muslims marching together for peace. There was no side-taking like we see in a lot of places, a lot of side-taking. I sounded a bit like Donald Trump there, sorry about that. Yeah, if we can move to the last slide, please. Again, maybe, yeah, sorry. Last slide, please. Yeah, I think it's a great idea, Okay, so, again, maybe this is a bit utopical, but I've never hosted a film before, I've never had it projected somewhere, but maybe there's anyone that would like to come up to me afterwards and see if we can make this happen. There's this film about Neve Shalom, Salaam, which is the only purposely intentional village in Israel-Palestine where Jews, Muslims, Arabs, Palestinians choose to actively live together. There is a documentary about it. If anyone wants to help me host it, please.
Why did you choose exactly this one?
Good question. I mean, I have a Jewish background, so maybe that's why, because I'm very close to my Jewish roots, and I have a very fond affinity for the Middle East, so I guess maybe that's what drew me to it.
I followed the work of the organization that you posted before, ALLMEP, closely.
ALLMEP, yeah.
Yeah, but my question is regarding to history. South Africa, Liberia, Rwanda, Ireland had a conciliation process.
Right.
When people who actually made criminal war crimes actually acknowledge that they did war crimes. How close do you think that Israeli society is to admit what they have done?
Israeli society, I mean, I think personally on both sides, I mean, everyone has to be able to admit when they've committed war crimes. The Israelis and the Palestinians on the Hamas side. And again, it's not about, less about maybe finger pointing, but people being able to clear their consciences. And you're absolutely right, you've seen it in Northern Ireland, you've seen it in South Africa. What's the answer? I don't know. Probably more political pressure, and that's probably why I say that more people on the outside, less side-taking, more of a sort of ripple effect of promoting peace could make a difference, maybe not.
Because I feel like there's no possibility of peace if there's not that knowledge of what has been going on for so long.
Right. But I mean, I think on both sides, people need to be able to acknowledge their wrongs, but on the blanket spectrum, right?
Absolutely.
So I would push back a bit on your framing of the issue, and this is not to say like you're 100% right to center people suffering at the center of this, but you also cannot pretend that everything is just like so neutral or so central where left wing is there, right wing is there. Like this is not new. You know, there is history of like 75 years of what's happening where like it's sort of like reverse racism. You know, yeah, I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but yeah, like, you know, we know who are the people who actually suffer. You know, it's always minorities, LGBTQ, whatever. You know, so in this case as well, where this is not to deny anyone who's Israeli, like they're suffering. It's very real and it's important to talk about it, but the framing makes it seem like it's like two even sides who are just at war, just started now, whereas we know the land that's been taken away, we know how Palestinian side looks now, which is a genocide, versus how the Israeli side looks. And that framing is, I think, disingenuous.
So what's the question?
Why did you frame it like that?
Why do I frame it like that?
Yeah.
Because I think that if bereaved Israeli and Palestinian parents can get beyond the fact that they've both lost, let's say, kids or siblings or spouses, why can we not try and make an effort to see beyond that? I mean, watch the documentaries on there. Like, you know, there's Robbie Demlin. Her, I believe it was her son was assassinated by a Palestinian sniper. She wants to meet the man that did it, and she meets with Palestinian women who've had their kids killed, murdered, assassinated by Israeli soldiers. If they can move beyond it, and again, I think it takes incredible humanity, but if they can do it, I mean, that's where I'm coming from.
Sure, my question is not about individuals. It's talking about more of the system, more of the people who are like separating those two. Because I 100% agree with you when it comes to the people. I'm with you completely. But framing the issue like that makes it seem like the politics is also replicating that, where it is people who are just sort of struggling to figure this out. Where there's a clear difference between those two.
I'll have to get back to you. Yes, please, Pilar.
I have a very cool question. Where did you get the t-shirt?
For the record, I had this T-shirt made about 2 years ago. Yeah, I mean, maybe depending on where you were sitting, you couldn't have seen it. It actually has both flags, but I actually had this made. Yeah, it was a company in Switzerland. It was made before October 7th, 2023. So I just want to say that I didn't just jump on the bandwagon. You know, this necklace, as my friends will tell you, has been around the block. I've had it for probably 3 or 4 years as well. But you probably can't see it, but it's got a similar message. Yeah, Carter.
Tragedy of the conflicts, definitely. At the same time, conflict is what, in your opinion, is the inevitable law of conflict just for the evolution and advancement of societies and peoples, even though conflict results inevitably in tragedy?
Okay. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to answer that in a very philosophical way. Suffering, right? Just suffering, more suffering, more suffering, you know? I mean, I think a very simple answer.
Many more questions, but I hope this is not the end for the beginning of the conversation, and please go speak with them after.